Hi, I'm Katie Tamplin, and welcome back to Ecodove. Today we're all about Christmas, and we are counting down 12 ways in which you can make your Christmas ever so slightly more sustainable without spoiling any of the festive fun or having a huge negative impact on your budget. Christmas is one of my favorite times of year. It is so important to spend time with family, to get ourselves out of those doldrums of dark, cold winter days. And with all of that festive cheer and excitement comes a heck of a lot of spending. Across Western Europe and North America, the average person will spend between 500 and 2,000 US dollars on Christmas. That's gifts, that's food, that's decorations, that's having a great time with your friends and family, and it's all really important. Hey, I get it. I am usually the least organized person on the planet coming up to Christmas, and I'm running around like a maniac trying to buy gifts, decorate the house, and get food in the week before Christmas. So if you don't have time or headspace to think it through or to make any of these changes, that's okay too. Just bear them in mind, and maybe next year there'll be more time. They'll already be there in your head and something you can work towards. No pressure. We're all doing what we can, and the last thing we want to do is spoil any of the festive fun. So, with that, we are going to count down 12 tips to a slightly more sustainable Christmas. Hopefully, here you will find some that are easy, that are right for you, depending on whether you are time constrained or budget constrained, or just have certain traditions that have to be the way they are. Take the ones that you can apply, leave the ones that you can't for next year or for sometime in the future, baby. Regardless of what tradition you are celebrating, what big festive meals you have, what decorations go up, what types of gifts you give. Hopefully, there's some sustainability tips in here that'll be useful for you. But I'm not going to tell you to have a vegan Christmas. I'm not going to tell you not to buy sequins. Those are great if you're happy and willing to do them. But we are focused on making a sustainable Christmas without changing some of the traditions that I know are really important to a lot of households out there, including mine.
Everyone loves unwrapping a gift on Christmas morning, but sometimes a really fun day out, a fantastic life experience can mean 1,000 times more than anything. The memories that we made this day out, ziplining in Yorkshire, will stay with me for the rest of our lives. But I couldn't tell you half the stuff people bought for me for Christmas last year that were things. So this Christmas, try to replace one physical item that you would normally give with a life experience gift instead. Our next focus area is around the amount of food we throw away. Globally, 25 to 30% of food is wasted, and that number goes up dramatically around the holidays when we have these big meals where we tend to over cater. So what can you do? The key thing we're trying to avoid is food going from the table to the bin or from the fridge to the bin. So put it in a container. Pop it in your freezer to eat in a few weeks. Send it home with your guests. Find a community fridge near you where you can deposit food that didn't get cooked and eaten on Christmas Day. Or give anything that was left in your cupboard uneaten to a food bank. Anything you can do that stops a little bit of food going in the bin will make a huge difference. The next item we're going to look at is tinsel. You may not think about it, but this stuff is typically made from PVC, which is non-recyclable. It's really pretty, it's really sparkly, it's really fantastic, but if you can just buy a little bit less or replace it with something made from paper or raffia, that can make a huge difference on avoiding a lot of plastics going to landfill. One of the other more sustainable gifts you can give, especially for kids, is to adopt an animal at Christmas time. We have these cuddly toys all over our house. We tend to do this through World Wildlife Fund. But there are a number of really responsible organizations doing fantastic conservation work and ensuring that these wonderful animals in their real life form are getting the protection that they need. The top 5, as rated by Impactful Ninja, are David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation, Born Free, Defenders of Wildlife, World Wildlife Fund, and World Animal Protection. You can typically choose how much you donate, and then you can feel a little bit better about that pile of teddies accumulating in the cupboard, knowing that the money that you put towards them is going to a good cause. This next section is just thinking a little bit more about what goes into these lovely stockings that we fill every year. I've been trying to use more and more natural, sustainable, or biodegradable materials as I stuff these stockings. And I think, you know, there's some great alternatives out there, especially for little kids, like wooden blocks or wooden toys that fit nicely in a stocking, that it just make a fantastic alternative to things that are made out of plastic and won't biodegrade. For slightly older kids and grown-ups, I've gotten in the habit of making seed bombs, where you can get these, you scatter them into a wildflower meadow or in your garden, and in the spring beautiful flowers come up. So now my stockings look like a mixture of things to plant in the garden and wooden toys, and then of course sweets, chocolates, all of that in paper bags wrapped up in that lovely stocking. And don't forget the orange in the toe. It takes up lots of space, whether it gets eaten or not. Our next tip is about thinking where you source the stuff you're not going to use that much from. So the key thing here is, as you buy a Christmas jumper or something seasonal that you're only going to use probably once, especially if it's for kids that can only wear it one Christmas, think about where you buy it from and how you might source it in a way that gives it a longer life. So you can buy it secondhand from a charity shop, from an online app that just gives those clothes more wear, more life. It reduces the demand for newly manufactured clothing or goods, which of course reduces our impact on the environment through reduced emissions, reduced industry, and it also means that the stuff that has already been manufactured lasts for longer, gets more wear, and therefore it means fewer items going to landfill. This next tip is also about reducing the amount of things that we buy, reducing our demand for manufactured items and the amount of stuff going to landfill. But this time we're going to do it in a slightly different way, which is through a Secret Santa gift exchange. So this is great for buying less stuff. It helps with spending less money if you're on a budget this year, and helping us to get fewer things that are unwanted. So rather than buying a small gift for lots of people, typically those small gifts tend to be not as nice, not as desirable, not as well thought out. I buy one nicer gift for one family member, and I'm able to spend less money. They get less stuff they don't want, and they get a single nicer gift rather than lots of little not so nice gifts. So it's a great way to reduce our impact on our environment, and a great way to contain our budget. Our next tip is about the kind of lights that you hang up around the house or string around your tree. And here what we're aiming to do is to reduce our energy use and reduce the amount of strings of lights that end up in landfill. And we can do that by using or choosing LED lights instead of the more traditional incandescent bulbs. So LED lights work differently. They sometimes can be a little bit more expensive in the shop, but I would prompt you to pay the extra up front if you're already replacing your lights or if you're buying new lights, for a couple of reasons. Number one, LED bulbs can provide up to 75% energy savings compared to the traditional incandescent bulbs, which will save you money on your energy bills. They also have an average lifespan of 1,000 hours, the incandescent ones, the traditional ones, whereas LED bulbs, the new ones, have an average lifespan of 50,000 hours. So they don't burn out as fast, they don't use as much energy, and they have the added benefit that if one bulb goes out, the whole strand keeps working. So it's not like the old days when I was a kid where you had to try to find the bulb that had gone out to keep the strand going. LED lights are much more efficient. They last a lot longer. So even if they are a couple pounds more in the shop, well worth the investment. This next tip is to get us to think a little bit more about what we hang on our front door and what type of materials it's made out of. This is a beautiful natural wreath, not made by me. As you all know, I am hopeless at these sorts of things. This was made by my lovely sister from things in her garden. And it looks like something you would buy from a florist. It's absolutely stunning. She put all these materials together, foraging from a tree outside her house, a bush with lovely red berries, pine cones, some dried plants, and also some rosemary, which I thought was a lovely touch to the natural wreath. The key thing here is to source your wreath from natural materials so that when you chuck it in the bin at the end of the season, it will all biodegrade naturally and enrich your soil yet again if it's made from natural stuff you found in the garden. As for me, as you have probably guessed, I have not gotten my act together to make a beautiful natural wreath like this, but I have stuck to my aim of using natural materials, and per my usual, I have hung a wooden wreath with a crooked bow on the front door. Job done. Our next tip is similar in nature. We're looking at ways to reduce the plastic that we demand, that we purchase, that we consume over the holidays. And an easy substitution now is Christmas crackers. So you can now get Christmas crackers made from fully recyclable materials, mostly paper. These are some beautiful crackers with a lovely pattern. My daughter actually chose this kind of cracker. You can see it's quite plain on the outside, but the idea is, and what appealed to her was, you can paint it to whatever design you like. So she's going to spend the next couple of days as she gets out of school and prepares for Christmas painting in all these lovely Christmas crackers. They have no plastic toys inside, and so they're fully recyclable from start to finish. So we don't have to miss out on any of the fun fireworks at Christmas, at the Christmas table, to be slightly more sustainable in this choice. For our next tip, we are going to weigh in on the Christmas tree conundrum. So the first debate is artificial or natural tree. This is an individual choice. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on how long you are going to keep an artificial tree for. It depends on how sustainably your natural tree was farmed. There are some key elements, though, that are pretty widely accepted. One, if you have an artificial tree, or if you're going to invest in an artificial tree, keep it for as long as you can. The carbon footprint starts to come into line with the carbon footprint associated with a natural tree after about 10 years or so. If you are not keeping your artificial tree, please sell it on, give it to a charity shop, or sell it on the secondhand market so that it can have as long a life as possible, and it can stay out of landfill for as long as possible, because hopefully artificial trees will be recyclable sometime in the future. They are not today. The next choice, if you've decided to go for a natural tree, is whether or not you go for a cut tree, a harvested tree, or a tree rental scheme. Tree rental schemes are relatively new. They are not available everywhere, and they can be expensive. So while they are the most sustainable choice from a lot of points of view, in that you don't actually cut the tree down, the tree stays in a pot, someone delivers it to your house, or you go and pick it up, it stays alive, you deliver it back to the farm from whence it came after the Christmas period. So in that sense, it is more sustainable because the tree is not cut down, and therefore you don't lose the carbon sequestration associated with that tree over the 12 months between the Christmas periods. That tree stays alive and absorbing carbon. The reality is, though, that the harvest Christmas tree market, the one in which we cut the trees down, is growing, so that sustainable tree farmers are planting more trees each year than they are cutting down, and that promotes carbon sequestration overall. So that's a good thing. So I think these two options work really nicely alongside each other. If you have a rental scheme near you and it's practical and pragmatic, go for it. If not, a natural tree is still a great bet.
The reusable advent calendar. So the idea here is you buy one of these and it lasts for years and years, because every day when the kids come downstairs, they can open a little door and behind it is a special treat. And you reuse the calendar year on year rather than buying a disposable advent calendar. Great idea, right? Except for when I discovered there are not very many toys that fit in these little cubby holes. So, for example, Santa Yo-Yo, doesn't fit. There are a few things that do fit, though. Miniature Christmas ornaments, these work a treat. Little bouncy balls, these fit. That's good.
And if you're really feeling creative,
you can make a treasure hunt out of the mini advent calendar. You pop a little note behind the door with a clue as to where that day's treat is hidden. And that gives you the flexibility to do all kinds of gifts. You can do charity shop gifts, you can do sweets, you can do little baked
items, whatever you prefer.
Have a wonderful holiday season, whatever traditions you celebrate, and we will see you next year.